Thank you so much. At first I was talking to Bailey, why don't we hold this outdoors in the Northeast? And for some reason she thought, I don't know, mid-January, not ideal. So I hope where you are is warm because we're going to heat things up today with really some amazing conversations about AI and communications and storytelling. And what's been fun is while I consider myself pretty solid on AI. I've learned so much already by having various conversations with the panelists that you're going to be seeing throughout today and tomorrow. And it's funny, I told my mom, I'm kind of like her superintendent. She lives in an active adult community, so the toilet backs up, a light bulb needs being. So I get there, and she goes, Jordan, did you know that ChatGPT says I actually need this water filter? Could you pick it up at Best Buy? And I'm like, "Wait, you have ChatGPT?" She goes, duh. Now my mom is 80. So I know that when my mom adopts a piece of technology, it's here. And what's interesting is probably many of you know that ChatGPT was the fastest growing consumer application in history. Yeah, it launched in November 2022, about a million users in 5 days, and then it hit 100 million active monthly users in 2 months. So 2 months, can you guess what the other two fastest growing apps were? So put in the chat after ChatGPT, what were the two other fastest growing apps to hit 100 million users? Let's see if you guys can guess. And I'm not ageist. I'm a Gen Xer, or as I like to call it, a senior millennial. But those of you that are probably Gen Z, a millennial, will probably get this. I see TikTok, I see iPhone app, TikTok and Snapchat, close. So TikTok is one of them. TikTok hit 100 million monthly users in 9 months. So that's number two. What do you think the third most downloaded app to hit 100 million in the shortest amount of time was? I'll give you guys, hey, Jen Hirsch, you win some trail mix. So awesome. That's right. So Instagram took 2.5 years to hit 100 million downloads versus 2 months for ChatGPT. So if that doesn't kind of like explode your mind, I don't think anything will. But the point being is not only is ChatGPT and other AI applications just exploding, but often what happens is we all see it goes from consumer to enterprise, and we are solidly in that bullseye of where enterprises are adopting. So I think this moment where we're all gathering is super timely for a discussion about AI. So I'm thrilled. And we also have just some amazing people that will be sharing their experiences both today as well as tomorrow. So very excited to be your MC, your chairman, your club promoter. I wear a lot of different hats, but ultimately my goal is to really create a seamless experience for everybody. And the way I look at the world in terms of, hey, what are we going to do over these 2 days? I think there's going to be equal parts sort of the philosophy behind AI and how it can become a powerful tool for communications, but also we're going to get into the practical. And the practical is really going to be, hey, how can you take some of the things you're seeing and apply it to your daily work as a communication expert and storyteller? So we'll keep a good balance these next 2 days, not just here's an app, here's why I like it, here are the challenges, but how should you approach AI in your everyday work so that you can create this roadmap on how are you going to elevate not only your efficiency and productivity, but how are you going to maintain your human voice in all of your communications? By the way, yes, I'm here in the flesh. This is not a digital avatar, or is it? No, it isn't. So, with that said, one thing we're going to do in the first workshop that I'm actually going to kick off, I'm going to present really a range of approaches in thinking about AI. What I'd love to do is as you have questions, please put them in the chat. And then at the close of the presentation, I promise I will leave 15 minutes so that we can really get in some good conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to kick things off. And look at that, we're right on time. It's 11:10. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive right into this presentation. And of course, I think I think you might have a sense of where I got my cover image from. So, can everyone see my screen? That's a good thing. All right. So, like many of you, when Lensa came out in 2022, I go, oh my God, the future is here. So I immediately uploaded a bunch of photos, and this I thought was kind of cool. I don't even know if this is futuristic or retro futuristic, but bottom line is, it still showed a couple of my grays. So I was like, I'm going to downgrade it a little bit lower in the App Store rating. But I thought it was pretty cool. And then, of course, do not tell my wife, but I'm also showing her image, which is here. So she also had fun. Again, do not tell her. She's going to tell you, but I think she's beautiful. We just, in her image here, we just celebrated 25 years of marriage with 2 kids, and we will be empty nesters soon, but not soon enough. So in any event, I'm going to be talking about a couple things. The first 3 items I'm going to kind of run through pretty quickly just to set the stage. So I'm going to talk about, hey, who am I? Me and OFC. Number 2, I'm going to talk about some really interesting developments in the entertainment communications world that are definitely going to filter into the corporate communications and storytelling. So that is Olaf to your office. Those Frozen fans probably know who I'm talking about. I'm going to give a really quick snapshot on the state of AI. I think everyone coming to this program today has a pretty good sense that, hey, AI is here. It's a force to be reckoned with. We can't keep our heads in the sand. And if anything, hey, let's continue to experiment and be curious. So I'm going to just give a little bit of a snapshot. There may be some data points that you haven't seen, and I'm sure there are some that you have. And then really the meat of my workshop is going to be looking at how is my company using AI, but how are other storytellers and creators leveraging text, photo, video, and audio capabilities. So without further ado, I'm just going to give a very quick, who the heck am I? So if you found my wallet or stole my wallet, you'd find that I hoard my business cards. I'm basically a guy who has been a marketer at a couple of large firms, Black & Decker, on the agency side, DDB, and then I'm really like an entertainment refugee. So I worked at Showtime. I ran online marketing, promotions, and partnership marketing. I was at MTV where I ran integrated marketing, and I was also at AT&T helping them launch mobile video and an ad model. And then in 2011, I launched OFC, which is a creative agency and video production company. As you can see, I got 2 kids, Dean and Nate. We are Yankees fans. I have an adorable dog, which is interesting because I'm finding I'm taking more photos of my dog recently than my kids. I don't know what that says about me. And as you can see from the upper left, a crazy weekend for me is Home Depot, Bed Bath Beyond, and Wegmans if there's time. Now, I do live by a motto. This is an actual fortune cookie. So my life is anchored by a piece of paper and a cookie. One must dare to be himself or herself, however frightening or strange that self may prove to be. So we're going to kind of get into some really cool stories over the course of the 2 days because we actually do want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly about the world of AI. We're a content engine at OFC, serving a range of different audiences. I'm going to show you just a quick reel just to give a sense of different types of storytelling, because when we talk about AI and we talk about text, we talk about audio, images, video, a lot of times the video we create incorporates all these things. And I'm going to show you some examples. So I'm just going to give you a sense, because as we talk about multimedia storytelling, there's a lot of different components. It might be scripted, it might be it's documentary based, it might be animation. So this is just going to kind of set the table in terms of the type of multimedia content we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to hit play.
Pigeons.
What?
So we work with a lot of different companies, and what's awesome about these 2 days is we're going to hear from a lot of folks at different companies. I'm based in New Jersey. In Princeton, we have crews everywhere, so I basically live in a suitcase. And yes, our office is above a Starbucks. So I like to say I stay naturally caffeinated through osmosis. Um, we've got a great team of a lot of different types of folks. And the most important one is the hardest working canine in communications, aka my dog Kayla. So I do want to see in the chat who here has a fur baby, whether it is a dog or a cat, number one. Number two, what is their name? And number three, are you able to bring them to work? Of course, if you work from home, I'm assuming that's a yes. But if your company has a dog-friendly policy, I'm very curious to see that. And it's always interesting to see, do comps people, are they more cat people or dog people? So we're going to find out. We have a range of services from strategy and media ideation, writing, design. But I'm going to talk to you today about kind of a range of applications for AI that really span all the various things we do with our clients. So two things I want to share that really jumped out at me in December, and these might have been hard, these might have been missed because all this happened in the mid to latter part of the end of the year. So first of all, Disney did a incredibly amazing deal with OpenAI. So December 11th, they announced there's a 3-year licensing agreement where Disney will allow Sora, the video app that OpenAI brings, and they're going to let you play with 200 Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars characters in your videos. So the idea that they're saying, all right, you guys are using ChatGPT, you're using Sora, using all these AI applications, we're not going to fight it. We're actually going to kind of lean forward. So this is going to be fascinating to see what people create. And by the way, some of those social videos are going to appear on Disney Plus. So those fan-inspired vids. And as a lot of you know, fan-inspired content is a huge and growing area. Disney, as part of this deal, is going to invest $1 billion for equity in OpenAI. And Disney is also going to become a new OpenAI customer. So the big question I have to ask is what's next? Will sexual harassment training be hosted by Olaf and Elsa? Because we know that things that start in the consumer world often move to enterprise. Of course, I'm saying this with a wink. The other really interesting development is the first fully digital actress, I wouldn't even say was born, was launched, Tilly Norwood. So she is a photorealistic AI-generated virtual actress created by Particle 6, which is a technology production company. And there was a big announcement that Tilly was signing a deal with a Hollywood agent. Now, there was a ton of debate in Hollywood whether this is the work of the devil or, hey, this is just going to be integrated with human characters. I mean, hey, we have characters like Toy Story. Why wouldn't there be human avatars? And then, of course, the question is, hey, at some point, will you be able to have Tilly moderate your town hall or other characters? So there's a lot of really interesting things happening in the culture that are definitely going to filter down to the workplace. Now, in terms of AI use, as you guys know, it's exploding, but I love to categorize this world of AI into models, tools, and creation. So the models are actually the engine that powers all this stuff. So GPT-4 from OpenAI, Gemini from Google. So the brains behind the operation, the LLMs, the large language models. And then you actually have the tools. These are the things that you interface with, the applications, ChatGPT, pseudo-write, all these other things. And those are platforms, usually dedicated functionality. Then you have the creation of this stuff. And whether we're summoning new content, meaning generative, or non-generative, where we are fine-tuning existing content and tweaking. So that idea of creation and iteration are the way that at least I'm seeing the market develop. And when you look at how huge it is, we kind of already hinted at that, 1.8 billion consumers are using AI to the left. In the middle, consumers are spending 12.1 billion on AI tools, which is nuts. And then most of that market is using free tools. The paid users is only 3%. So if you're going to, of course, I shouldn't be giving you stock picking advice. There's going to be a lot of growth in this world. And then when you look at the workplace, 75% of firms have employed AI in 2025 versus 55% only a year ago. 92% of companies are looking to invest more. and 20% of tech budgets will be allocated really in 2025, 2026. So this is where the hockey puck is skating to. What are people doing with all this stuff? Well, if you go left to right and then top to bottom, you see writing support, coding projects, getting help on work assignments and homework. If you've got kids, you know your kids are using that ChatGPT, creating presentations, music and audio, research for work or school, creating images, even managing childcare, dating or social coaching. Of course, we have heard that there are some people that have relationships with their GPT. So interesting development. And if you haven't yet seen it, see the movie Her, rent it or download it, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Crazy. He falls in love with his AI, kind of his Siri, and it's a little futuristic, and then learning a new language. And then when we look at, well, who's using this stuff? If you just look at the box with the red bars, you see that 18 to 29-year-olds, surprise, are the biggest adopters, and 20% of them are using it multiple times per week. But the bigger takeaway, all the way to the left, 56% of Americans use AI. So it's pretty insane just how deep it's penetrated in this world. However, if you take a look at the red bar that says the spread of misleading video and audio deepfakes, how concerned are people? 58% of people are concerned about misleading video and audio deepfakes and the erosion of personal privacy, the spread of political propaganda, of course, the replacement of human jobs and manipulation of human behavior. So with this excitement and enthusiasm, there's a lot of, I'm a little concerned. And by the way, when you look at how people, their feelings are changing between 2024 and 2025, more people are skeptical, more people are overwhelmed if you look at the yellow boxes, and people are getting less excited about the advances in artificial intelligence. So it's kind of an interesting situation where more people are adopting, but more people are also feeling a little iffy. Very bizarre. And even when you look at like creators, whether it's on the TikToks, the YouTubes, the Instagrams, if you look at the bottom, in November 2023, that block line, 60% of respondents preferred Gen AI creator content, generative AI. But now, 2 years later, 26% prefer Gen AI to traditional content. Traditional content meaning, hey, someone making a video, posting it, versus literally generating brand new content. So you're seeing a little bit of a backlash to people that want what's real. Now, when you look at how are we using generative AI, well, this is what creators are doing. As you can imagine, content planning and script writing are the top two by far, so a lot of text. Video editing, almost half of that. 20% of those surveyed aren't using it at all. We all know who those people are, and maybe we are those people, or we were those people. And then finally, in this, when you look at the most commonly used AI tools, what you see is ChatGPT. It's like the Netflix of AI. It is far and above the biggest. And then you see CapCut, a video editing software. Then you see these other AI tools, Claude, Gemini, Midjourney, Perplexity, and Notion. So ChatGPT it's like the VHS versus the Betamax at this point, but things can change. Remember that thing called Blockbuster? They used to be the big doc. Now let's actually get into the good stuff. This is really what I want to spend my time on. So the first thing is when you look at AI generated content, okay, what are the categories and what percentage of that content is comprising all this activity and where is it going or where is it predicted to go? So today, if you look all the way to the left at 2026, really, or 2025, you see, all right, there's kind of an even amount of use between text, video, audio, images. But then what you see is this growth curve where video is expected to be the number one use of AI generated content, and then images second, and that's followed by audio. And of course, text is still going to be solid. So we're in kind of a text-driven space right now, but it's very quickly going to go multimedia. And you saw the same thing with the internet. It was really articles and blogs. Then this thing called Napster came around, audio, and then Instagram, and then the whole nine yards with YouTube, TikTok, et cetera. Now, what we're seeing as a creative agency and video production company is these stock footage subscriptions we use to get action B-roll, meaning, hey, I need a group of people that are at a conference room or I need someone surfing on the ocean waves. These companies have all shifted from saying, "Hey, license our photos, our video clips, our graphic designs," to now saying, "Hey, this is where you can get access to these AI tools in addition to our stock library, and potentially even take some of our stock footage and manipulate it in AI." So that's a really big harbinger of how creative folks and content creators are looking at the shifting landscape. Now, from a text perspective, take a look at web pages. And what's really interesting is if you look all the way to the lower right in that deep purple, you see that 46.36% of web pages have substantial AI use. 2.5% is pure, but then you look at 15.1% you have in terms of dominant AI use. So most of the content you see is heavily AI today. The future is here. In addition to that, what you also see is that from a text perspective, blog posts dominate. That's primarily what we're doing. Website copy, social media, email newsletters, and then you see ad copy, video scripts, ebooks, white papers. So we're doing a lot of text leveraging AI generated content, meaning we're creating content, where none existed. And of course, some of the popular AI apps, you see the usual suspects: ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. Then you see Grammarly, you see Quillbot, Sudowrite, among others. And one of the ways that at OFC we use it is we'll often use ChatGPT to assist with research and also produce, I say decent. Sometimes it's decent, sometimes it's not, but we may use it to generate a first draft script. But honestly, what we find is a lot of the writing from ChatGPT, as you probably experienced, falls into some, very much patterns that, don't differentiate. So if we do use it for a draft script, it's typically just to almost out of curiosity, like, hey, what would it come with? But it clearly has not exceeded our writing capability. There are 7 deadly tells of AI writing, and this is something I'm pulling out from Forbes. The number one is the contrastive rhetorical framing. Tell me you don't see this all the time. Amazon isn't just buying content, they're buying credibility. If you see that framing, it's likely AI. I feel like I'm, what is it? Who's the comedian? That you're a redneck if, so you're using AI if asking and answering rhetorical questions. What changed? The math did, versus, hey, the math changed. Number 3, dashes everywhere for no reason. The old model, boom, hire more writers, boom, is breaking down. Triplet framing. So whenever you see these comparisons that are fast, cheap, and out of control, probably AI. The inspirational pivot. This isn't just about AI, it's about humanity. And what's funny is I was following this one motivational LinkedIn guru, and after seeing this list, I was like, wait, this guy's all AI. He's completely BS. And just mailing it in, wasn't even tweaking it. I'm like, my respect for this person kind of dropped. And then, of course, universal authority without a source. So you'll see things like studies show that storytelling is 20 times more memorable than facts. It's like, wait, where'd you get that? And then sometimes ChatGPT will say, I made it up. Like, what? And then finally, quotes without attribution. You'll see things like AI is the new electricity. Well, supposedly that was attributed to Elon Musk. He never said it. So it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that we are not pumping out stuff and AI slop, which is the bad stuff, that everyone else is also pumping out. Let's shift to images. So from an image perspective, there are a number of popular AI apps, and they all kind of do something different. And of course, at some point, there's going to be a shakeout, and there's going to be acquisitions and mergers. So Midjourney, really incredible, breathtaking art. DALL-E, part of OpenAI, versatile conversational control, stable diffusion, full customization, and local processing. Adobe Firefly, really brand safe business assets, especially for marketing. Canva, hey, it's all about speed inside a design suite. Recraft, editable vectors and mockups, and then ideogram memes or images with text. Now, one of the ways we use it is to generate storyboard images. So the way I used to do it is we'd have a storyboard, all the empty boxes, and this is for video creation. I would literally go on Google image search, and if I knew there was a woman with a microphone, I'd literally type in woman with microphone. I'd have to mask out the background, and then I'd find, let's say if she's walking through a garden, I'd find garden, I'd grab that image, I'd put it in the background, then I'd stick on the woman's image with the microphone. Now it's woman with a microphone walking through a garden. And what you can do is, come up with a really interesting style, and all of a sudden you're doing the work of a artist that we used to hire all the time at ad agencies, 20 plus years ago. So you don't want to be a storyboard, pencil illustrator anymore. Now I'm going to give you guys a quiz, and you guys will need to answer. You need a really good eye to see which AI is good and which AI is not good. So A or B. By the way, when I saw this image to the right, I was like, this looks like an amazing horror movie. And one of the funny things is we were working with another agency, and they were serving up this key art for a campaign around culture. And what was interesting is all the hands, it was like everybody kind of putting their hands on, and the hand at the bottom was the wrong way, and it had a sixth finger. It was very, very subtle. But as we looked at it, I was like, no, that's AI. Like no one, puts a hand like this at the bottom of a stack. So sometimes it's just those littlest things. So that's why you always, always, always need to take a microscope to any images because it's just not there yet in terms of being flawless. From a video perspective, there are really three categories of video apps, and this really hits our sweet spot at OFC. I'm a former Showtime and MTV guy, so video is close to my heart. So first of all, video editors with AI editing tools, and that really just speeds up the editing process. I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. And then there's generative apps. So you put your prompts in, it generates a video output on the spot using generative AI text, audio, images, or video. So that's just, hey, instead of saying, let me go into Envato or Artlist to find a video clip of someone surfing, hey, guy surfing with a blue swimsuit. And then finally, video productivity apps. So how do we use AI to create content faster for multiple marketing channels or platforms? Meaning, hey, we have a 60-second piece of video that, let's say, played at a town hall. We need a 15-second version of that to post on LinkedIn. We need a 30-second version. Or, hey, we created horizontal widescreen for projecting onto a giant digital monitor. You know what? Most content today is viewed vertically, so we need to have a ratio instead of 16 by 9, 9 by 16. And when you think about the best AI editing software, when you're talking to professionals, so my team of editors and animators, they're using professional apps, which incorporate AI functionality. And I'm sure some of you are probably whiz kids at some of these programs like Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects, which is really animation, or Final Cut Pro, which is something I personally use. But when you look at the apps for non-professional video editors, there's a ton of them. And some of them are for end-to-end video creation. Some of them are like Sora for community-driven inspiration and remixing. Almost feels like a TikTok sort of for pure generative AI. For editing video by editing the script, polishing video with AI tools. I mean, there's just a ton of different ones. We use Vyond a lot. When budgets are small for original animation, we'll actually use their off-the-shelf characters and we'll customize them. So there's a whole range of software for video. And again, it's so splintered and so specific to function, it's gonna start to condense and you'll be able to get more of those one-stop shop apps. I wanna show you 3 signs of bad AI video. So we already went through some of the horrendous issues with bad imagery, photo, and text. Well, when you look at video, you're like, is this AI? Resolution, the number or size of pixels is low, and that creates these soft or blocky or blurry images. So anytime you see something that just looks like it's output poorly, now sometimes a real video is passed around, the file's compressed, someone does a screen capture of it using like QuickTime, that can also happen. But these days, if the content looks kind of new, but it just looks really low quality, it's probably AI. Quality, compressed files are smaller and it minimizes detail. So these days, yes, some AI-generated video content will be high resolution, potentially even 4K, but most of it just isn't that quality. And then the length, most AI videos are short. We're talking 6 to 10 seconds long. Because video generation is very expensive. You need a lot of processing power, and it's a complex thing to create from an algorithm perspective. So in a lot of these apps, like Sora, it's not outputting a 1-hour movie. It's really creating just a little shareable thing, And you know what? Not necessarily a bad thing because most people's attention spans are short. I mean, TikTok videos are super short. So just, signs to look at. So if you're creating AI generated video, just be aware that, the telltale signs that this is AI are these three things. Now, some of the ways that we use video and AI. So in Adobe Premiere Pro, there's something called AI Media Intelligence. It helps us more quickly search through uploaded footage and media. So if you can imagine, I was at a shoot recently and I interviewed 12 executives. Well, if you're interviewing 12 executives, that's a lot of footage. And these are interviews, so they're not reading scripts. So you can only imagine these are all the topics they're talking about. How do I find that one moment that I want? Or I did a shoot recently in beautiful Dandridge, Tennessee, and Knoxville, Tennessee. If anyone here likes beans, Bush Brother Beans, we went to their huge plant, then we went to their headquarters, and there was so much action B-roll footage, and then there was lots of interview footage. So how do you sort through that? Because that could just be hours and hours and hours. So that's one use case. Another use case, which I think is really amazing, we had an executive, and this executive was basically preparing a video, and she had her notes to the side of her desk. She was actually in a hotel while we were filming her remotely using a technology called Riverside, which is a remote video recording studio. So I'm going to play you the before and watch her eyes because you're going to see her actually looking at her notes occasionally.
Thank you for taking the time to provide your
But on the
thoughtful
right side,
feedback
we
for the
actually
study.
adjusted her eye
Your
line.
insights are
So
invaluable.
if you notice,
as
now her
we
eyes
refine our
look directly
strategy to
at the
ensure it
camera
aligns with our goals and
versus
addresses the needs of
occasionally
our
looking to the
organization.
side. And what you'll often see is even with teleprompters, a lot of executives, if they've only seen the script last moment, and we all have these situations, right? You tell the executive and their assistant, hey, we're going to film this video. We're going to have a teleprompter. Here's the script. Of course, they get to the recording and they go, okay, what am I reading? You're like, oh, dude, I forwarded you the script 2 weeks ago. So they start making edits. And then you put it on the teleprompter and then they're reading it. And you kind of see their eyes and their head move. Some executives want their safety blanket of notes, and you never want them looking off camera. The good news is you can adjust their eye line while still making it feel authentic. So that's really helpful.
Thank you for taking.
And then we also use it sometimes to just create short clips like action B-roll. So if we needed a real retro computer and maybe we're comparing, hey, in olden times, as my boys like to say, I was born in 1973. My sons will go, Dad, back in the 1900s? I'm like, dude, 1900s is like 1906, not like 1980. So if we needed a retro video of an old PC with a joystick, we're going to create something like this. Now, here's the challenge. When you have an option of using stock imagery and video versus AI, listen, for the most part, stock footage is going to be higher quality. You could search for it very quickly, but what we are seeing is the ability to create something really customized is getting better and better. So we are using it, but still it's not as reliable in terms of the exact stuff we need at a really high quality level. And sometimes we'll take existing stock footage that's unique for our project. So if someone's talking about scientific advances, we'll find stock footage if we can't film someone in a lab, and we'll show some scientists, but we might actually adjust it using AI tools. So it's not really an either or proposition. And then of course, audio. So audio is the last section. So there's two flavors of audio AI: music generation and sound effects software. A lot of people think SFX is special effects. It's really sound effects, but both can be used interchangeably. So quickly generating music and sound effects by mimicking many different styles, right? And the parameters include genre, tempo, mood. The challenge is in most music that's AI generated, a lot of times it sort of lacks the nuance and emotion. And a lot of that comes from the artist, right? Like the real personal expression of an artist. So if you're listening to Billie Eilish, or Taylor Swift or Noah Kahan, whatever, they're really pulling at some emotional strings in your guts. AI isn't quite there yet, but it's getting closer. So you see some of the apps, ChatGPT, Tad.ai, Lalal AI, Audiodynamics, and then Lander. But again, getting better and better. The key, even without AI, match the music to your storytelling. So if your storytelling is energetic, don't just use that vanilla block corporate music most people do. Make sure you match it. And you know what? Not a bad thing. If you're trying to be culturally relevant to your Gen Z, millennials, use a little hip hop, although yours truly does enjoy a little bit of hip hop. And then there's voiceover software. And this is generating speech that sounds natural and realistic. And what are the things you want? Well, you want realism. So you need variations, natural tone and pauses, controls, pitch, volume, pace, and pronunciation. And of course, you want high quality audio. And you always want a range of voices. One of the things we love to do is we love to intermix, male voices, women voices, but you can also pick voices that, reflect different ethnicity, different geographies. So if I want a young Hispanic woman, we're going to program and select a voice that's going to fit for that profile. If we want an older Asian gentleman, we might try to pick something that has just a slight little variation that's going to tell you that, hey, this is not a young girl, it's an older man, so on and so forth. So like from age, from geography, those are really kind of the inputs you've got. And again, you got to be very subtle and mindful. But I'm a big believer that when we talk about video, what you hear is as important as what you see. So let me show you a couple of use cases. So we're actually developing, believe it or not, a ping pong docu-series following some of the world's, actually it's really America, Puerto Rico, and Brazil, some of the top table tennis players as they journey to LA 28 Olympics. And this was actually in development before Marty Supreme came out, but we're very excited the world is fixated by ping pong. Listen to the voiceover. This is AI generated, which most people couldn't believe.
With over 850 million fans, table tennis is one of the most popular sports on earth, attracting more supporters than F1, basketball, baseball, and football. Ping pong is everywhere in pop culture. And while the game is popular in the United States, most people don't realize just how good you need to be to make it in the highest levels.
So you get a sense there, wow, that sounds real. Now, in this case, we're like, we want someone who sounds like Michael B. Jordan, someone who's really cool, the star of Sinners. So you can find a voice similar to that. And of course, hey, if you're Morgan Freeman and everybody wants to use your voice or similar, it creates lots of legal questions. Now, we also use it to clean up and sweeten existing audio. So there's some footage captured by a client we have, and they had an iPhone and it was a crowded cafeteria. And they were doing these employee testimonials. They sent us the footage and they go, guys, these aren't very good. And our CEO needs to see this footage as part of research. So listen to the original audio.
I think the one thing that I would continue really is around the passion for the patient and the energy that goes in around what we do for the passion or for the patients.
So you hear a lot of background noise. You hear the interviewer. So what we did is we cleaned it up. Now listen.
I think the one thing that I would continue really is around the passion for the patient and the energy that goes in around what we do for the passion of for the patient.
Huge difference, right? So Adobe Podcast AI Speech Enhancer is what we use there.
I think the
ultimately, this is my MO. Fast good beats slow great, but OFC is in the quick awesome business. But I think it also is equally applicable to AI. Often something's got to be good. We're all super busy. Our companies are super lean. So how do we get to fast good? Obviously, we want fast great, and we'll get there. And that's why I like to say we're in the quick awesome business. And the big question is, can we all be in the quick awesome business? Not because we want a much bigger workload, but because we want to be more efficient. So that idea of, hey, I know they say, perfect is the enemy of the good or even the great. But we're all going to find out where we can be in that sweet spot. So I'm going to now be able to see the chat. But what I'd love to do is get help from my friend Bailey to just pull out some of those questions, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes really answering your questions. And of course, we can continue offline as well. So here's what I'm saying. By the way, love the fur babies. So from Simon, I'm using granola.ai to take notes. It transcribes the meeting but doesn't record it. So I don't think there is a Zoom, a Teams, or any chat that doesn't immediately say, hey, are you okay being recorded? Or Do you want to record? I personally, grew in the industry as an account executive in the advertising and marketing world. And what I found is when I take notes, it sticks in my head. So believe it or not, I'm not a huge fan of the automated note taking because I think it creates this sort of muscle. Um, Muscle relaxer isn't the right word. That's what we would have later tonight after the event. But really, it creates this, you just get out of shape in your note-taking skills. And I think when we take notes, yeah, you might get a transcript like you see a stenographer and a jury, but I'm still a big believer in I can pull out the insights beyond what the words were said. I'd be curious, do you guys feel likewise, or do you like, hey, this is the AI summary, I'm going to send it out, this is what we said?
I don't know,
At
Jordan. I think that's your Cornell method coming through.
well, you know what? I'm a ridiculous note taker, and if you guys can see the notes I've added for when I moderate the panel, I just love writing and taking notes, and I think it imprints on the human brain what you do physically. I'm also not a guy who types his notes on text, so I also love four-colored pens. But
They're the
good
best.
point, Bailey. Yeah, but Jen, you get the Thesaurus Award for saying atrophy. Yes, we don't want our skills to atrophy, and that's something Sharon Dilling is going to share a little bit later. I believe you said that AI video is the fastest growing category, but AI video production is also pretty expensive. What is the solution for that? So when you think about AI video production, that can mean a lot of different things, right? Because there's creating video content that's generative, meaning something from scratch. That takes time. It takes a ton of computing power. Also, you've got to use a lot of, depending upon the model you're using, it could be costly in terms of like monthly subscriptions. So what we find is that it's not about saying, hey, AI, create this video. It's not there yet. It's not going to be there in the next couple of years. I mean, listen, in 10 years or so, yeah, you will be able to say, hey, create this and this and this, and it's going to create it, and then you could constantly tweak it via prompts. But here's the thing. Most of the concerns our clients have across a broad range of circumstances, verticals, industries, we need more authenticity. And so, like we talked about earlier in the AI use cases, more people are using it, but there's a backlash. They want authenticity. And if you're in an organization and you're telling stories to internal and external, your people are always going to be your best ambassadors. So if you were to see a digital avatar of your CEO and he's talking about, hey, our profits down, but everything's going to be okay, how much are you going to trust that versus actually knowing that that's a human being who is shooting from the hip? So I don't think AI is going to, especially in internal communications where your teammates, your culture is so critical. I think more in like the world of like just fun, creative video entertainment, you're going to see that giant spike. But I do think we're going to be using AI in taking content we've captured that's real and tweaking and editing. But yeah, in terms of expense, hey, there are people that will try to just capture user-generated content on their phones. Sometimes you get really bad stuff. You can make it a little bit better using AI tools, or you can actually have storytellers that are filmmakers that are capturing content, and those tools are coming down in cost. But ultimately, nothing beats having a team of storytellers that are going to help you shape the message, shape the approach, and get the best responses. When we did this day of interviews, what we found is a lot of employees are not comfortable on camera, whether it's executives, whether it's junior employees. And so much of it is, you don't want to stand at the unblinking eye of death to emote. So typically someone having a conversation, we always get the best content from someone, especially in like kind of documentary type story where you want to hear an authentic story. Until the robots destroy humanity, having a person talking to a person, nothing beats that. What other questions do you guys have? Because we got 5 minutes. Let's see. Can help reduce the cost of things like motion graphics. Yeah, Scott had referenced there are a range of applications on really, animation. And a lot of people think animation is like cartoons. Motion graphics is really anytime you have, something that has, a somewhat illustrated look, meaning non-live video. So things like Vyond, VYOND, we'll have clients that say, hey, I need a training video, but I have a very small budget. So, all right, you know what? We're going to use Vyond off the shelf. Some of these different AI solutions have somewhat limits on the character creation and how much you can customize. Others are better. And then, there are clients who are like, we need something really unique that's really on brand. We have a look and a style. We also wanted to integrate with maybe our external marketing. So there's a spectrum of, hey, do you want it kind of quick and cheap and easy, or not? Because what you're going to hear from a lot of our panelists are the importance of the prompt and garbage in, garbage out, right? I learned that in business school about finance. Your reporting is going to be bad if you're not good at doing it. So you got to have good inputs. What other questions do you guys have? Otherwise, I've got a lot of questions for myself, but I'd rather hear the questions from you guys. And maybe what I'll do is let me just kind of ask in the chat. How many of you are using, if I want you to list what other media you're using AI for? And if you could put text, images, video, and audio. I want to see what are the media you're using, because this presentation was heavily about AI's application to these different types of media. And I see text and video for Laura. And that's interesting. You go right to video versus images. Some people think it's like a step. Text, I think we're going to see a lot of text, given many of us are writers, right? Our backgrounds. I see text, Lisa, Corvius, Jen, sampling a bit with all the above, but primarily text. Yeah, we're definitely in a text world. Dan, primarily text, some images. Christina, text, Gemini, and Notebook, LM images, Canva, and Adobe Photoshop. Ooh, so you're a real expert if you're using Adobe Photoshop. Simon, primarily text. What I find is that it's great to experiment. Like, we're in a mode where I feel that text is like here. It's a tool, right? It's like, when the ballpoint pen was invented, right before that, you had, an ink pen. And now this little ball, which rolls around and spreads the ink, it's just a tool that everyone uses. I don't know anyone that uses ink pens unless they're really fancy, but that's what AI is now. Images, it's getting there, right? And then video and audio. So this has been, first of all, I appreciate everyone's time. It's always fun for me to kind of share what I'm seeing, especially since as an agency and video production company, we work across clients. So you get an interesting perch by which to see who's doing what, why, how, and when. So any other questions or any other comments you guys have? I guess probably the last comment or question I'll have is, do you think Timothée Chalamet will win the Oscar for Marty Supreme? If you've seen it. So just weigh in. I loved him. So Corvia says yes. And by the way, how many of you also not only think he's going to win the Oscar, but have been like, dude, I got to play more table tennis? I think Corvia might be the only Timothée Chalamet Marty Supreme fan. Laura, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Christina has a question. Are there any concerns, or does the environmental impact ever come up when discussing these options with clients? Something our employees discuss frequently. Yeah, it does come up. Now, for the most part, when we're an agency and creative production company, our clients typically they want us to be aligned with their values of sustainability, but at the same point, they also want to minimize budget, and they want to maximize speed. So the frank answer is, most of our clients, they want to know if we're using AI from a legal perspective. So some of our agreements with our clients say, you may not use AI, because there are so many, kind of open questions about some legality, who owns the content. So that's one, like IP. The second thing is they certainly don't want us uploading their data to create customized things. And then of course, from a quality perspective, they are extra alert. If this isn't stock image, meaning it's vetted and professional, guys, you really need to take a close look, and we want you to verify. But we almost never hear about, hey guys, you're using a lot of, carbon. Again, I would say we use AI not as the steak, but as the garnish. It's sort of the parsley. Maybe sometimes it's the, julienne carrots, but we don't use it as the steak. So it's still a complement to what we're doing. When it becomes the stake, yeah, it's going to be a deeper conversation about the power, the immense power, and all the things like pollution and other things that are part of it, but something we all need to be aware of. Sounds like Jen is saying, yeah, I agree. Hey, we got to put more attention to legal and regulatory compliance. And it will be rising as an equal concern, definitely. Yeah, a lot of people are fascinated, but worry. Hey, the students are already relying on it, so I don't think we can put the genie back in the lamp. I have two kids; they're 18 and 21. They're in college. They use it. They use it in high school. So in any event, yeah, definitely between external clients and in-house, we're all interested in sustainability, whether, anyone who happens to be in government at one point or another agrees or disagrees. But I don't know of a company that doesn't have sustainability using less water, less paper, less energy. So it's going to be a very interesting balancing act.